to talk about 8 myths surrounding alcohol and substance abuse or dependency and how to debunk those things so that we can start working on the solution rather than being stuck in the problem. Number 1, they need to be more disciplined or have stronger willpower. They can do it on their own. That's not true. A lot of people that suffer from alcohol and substance abuse or dependency cannot stop on their own. That's why it's called dependency. They have to have it. Whether it's psychologically or physically, they have to have the substance or they go through withdrawals and they get sick. It's just almost like a survival mechanism inside their head that kicks in that says this is more important than anything else in life. You've probably saw your loved one when they're in the grips of alcohol or substance abuse and dependency do things that aren't congruent with who they really are or say things that they would have never said. That's an indicator that it's not a myth that they struggle and they cannot do it on their own with willpower. Myth 2, it only happens to certain people. That's far from the truth. It happens in every facet of our community, our society, and our world. I've worked with top 5 families all the way to people down on Skid Row in Los Angeles that have nothing, and the same thing holds true. Once someone starts to take a substance or drink in an abusive way and it becomes something they're dependent on, they are no different. They need professional help. They need some compassion and love at the front end. There's accountability at the back end, but it has to start with love and compassion. And it can't be something that says you're different because I would never do that, or you're not my son because that's not how we are. Those aren't things that are healthy for a recovery path. Myth 3, they chose this path, it's their fault. It's no one's fault. Alcohol and substances take control of a person's mental acuity and thinking patterns. It almost hijacks the system and they're not who they authentically are. They're acting completely different and out of their own character. You obviously know that if they're your loved one. You know what it's like when they're normal and you know what it's like when they're dependent. So no, it's not their fault. What happened is they started to take a substance and at some point it tipped into dependency and they had to have it no matter what. And that's when the real problems begin. Number 4, they can stop if they want to. No. Oftentimes when one gets to the stage of dependency, they have to have it, and stopping on their own is almost impossible. It takes an intervention and often professional help to see them get to a good detox and perhaps a 30-day residential where they can get the help they need to begin a journey of freedom from alcohol and substance abuse and the underlying issues in their lives. Myth 5, addiction is a moral failing. It has nothing to do with being a moral failing. It has everything to do with falling under the influence of a substance that hijacks the brain and people do what they usually won't do. It's not a moral failing. It's actually the system is built in a way that when one abuses alcohol or substances, the hijacking happens in the primal part of our brain and we have to have it. It becomes the thing. Addiction is not a moral failing. It's a physiological and a mental obsession that has to have professional help to change. Myth 6, if they hit rock bottom, they'll finally change. That can be the most dangerous thing I can hear from a client's loved ones ever. Right now, today, over 106,000 American citizens are dying from opioid-related deaths, from fentanyl and related things, and it's not something to play with. There is no rock bottom that I'm willing to accept anymore. Let's level the playing field. Let's bring that bottom up and meet them where they're at, and let's redirect this now before it's too late. I went to a wake at a family who had lost a loved one to opiates, and I probably will never go to another one because everybody there said they would have done so much if they would have only known, but they didn't. They judged, they ridiculed, they resented because the person's actions warranted that. And they saw the actions and they saw the problems the individual was causing. They stopped seeing the individual and they stopped wanting to be a part of the process. And so that individual's rock bottom was death. Myth 7, treatment doesn't work because they always relapse. Relapse is part of the treatment process. It doesn't have to be, but typically it is. And it can be handled in a very professional, humble, and straightforward way as a tool to help them grow even better lives. Let's not judge. We don't shoot our wounded. Let's help them. If you had a kid that you were teaching to ride a bike, much like helping an addict trying to teach them how to be sober, if they fell off of the bike when you were teaching them to ride it, you wouldn't go up and smack them in the back of the head. You'd say, hey, what's going on? Let's get clear on what's happening. Let's get back on the bike, and you'd push them until they got rolling again. And the more we can come from that perspective, the more success we're going to have. Myth 8. People can detox and just be done with it. The problem with that is the detox generally deals with the physiological or the physical symptoms, but not the mental. What happens over time is that an addiction or alcohol abuse is nothing more than a habit. It's something someone has practiced over and over and over again until it becomes second nature. Much like if you tie your shoes the same way you've probably tied your shoes since your mom and dad taught you when you were little, you could be in a dark room, sick, couldn't see straight, and tie your shoes without thinking about it because you have a neural pathway that says tie your shoes. Most addicts and alcoholics that have reached the dependency stage have a neural pathway that says happy, sad, joyous, celebratory, depressed, lonely, anxious, afraid. Alcohol or substances take that away or make that better. They have a neural pathway that you can't just take away. We have to train them and teach them how to live with new coping skills and new skills to counteract those original impulses, which will come from time to time. Support is the number one thing in working with alcohol and substance abuse individuals. I hope this helps. There's a bigger conversation around this. Leave me a message. Let's start a conversation. Perhaps you can teach me something or we can learn together. I think as a community we can help more families and their loved ones find healthier and happier lives.